So here we are in the lesson about emotional triggers, and many of you, whether you're taking this as a couple or an individual, you may not be aware of what an emotional trigger is. When I work with a couple in therapy, one of the things that I'm always doing is seeking to understand their emotional triggers. So the best way to describe an emotional trigger is to think of it this way. All of us have experienced hurt when we were young. These wounds or hurts stay with us. And when we're older, people can bump into those old wounds. I describe it as pouring salt on a wound. If you had an open cut on your hand and someone dumped salt on that open cut, you would scream out in pain. If, however, you did not have a cut on your hand and someone dumped salt on it, well, you wouldn't have a reaction. The thing is that all of us have emotional wounds. So the challenge is that they are inside of us and we can't see them. We must learn about them, though. This is one of the most important parts of becoming self-aware. Once we learn about our emotional triggers, we can learn to manage them. And we can realize that our partner is not always at fault when they bump into a trigger. If neither of you are aware of your triggers, you are inclined to blame your partner for pain that you feel. And let me say this. This is an important lesson to take your time with. In my ebook that I wrote, I did talk about emotional triggers in that book. And a client of mine shared with me that that was a difficult section for her. And she was not aware of her triggers. So in this section, you will open up to your past pains that you've experienced. Learning about what our triggers are is painful because, well, we revisit the past. And let me say this, though, at the same time, it can be liberating because you can learn to put the pain in the past. Most often, it's the case that we don't even realize that we are experiencing the past in the present. And so when we become aware of our triggers, we can put it in the past. I live by a mantra, and it's this. It feels the same, but it's not the same. And what I mean by that is you might feel the exact pain that you felt from the past, but the situation is completely different. Here's an example. If you were bullied as a child, you would feel many things as that child. Fear, helpless, alone, sad, shame, just to name a few. And then you're in your adult life, and if you feel bullied, you might first ask yourself how this current experience is different from your past experience. So, for example, if you feel bullied by your partner, you know that one way that it's very different is that you have choices, and you didn't always have choices when you were a child. Your choice as an adult is to walk away from the situation. But one thing to remember is that because you feel bullied doesn't always mean you're being bullied. One time I was working with a husband who shared with me that he felt bullied by his wife. He said, "I feel like she bullies me." And I asked him, "Is she a bully?" And he thought about it for a moment, and he said, "No." He was then able to work his way out of his trigger, and he did have a bully trigger. And he realized how this experience was very different from the past experience. Remember my mantra, it feels the same, but it's not the same. Again, take your time with this lesson. Perhaps with this lesson more than any other lesson, take your time. because if you are new to understanding and learning about your emotional triggers, it will open up some past hurts. And as always, I want to say, remember to be compassionate towards yourself, to take care of yourself, and to, again, just take your time and seek support. And if something is opened up that is too big for you to manage, then it would be good for you to seek professional guidance. It truly is so important because emotional triggers are always being stirred up in our relationship. Always. It's inevitable. And we have to be aware of them, as aware as we possibly can be, so that we're not reliving the past. And we're working on, like I said, managing and realizing that things really are different from the past. Okay, I will see you in the next lesson.